Hello, ladies and gents, boys and girls, people of all identities and sexualities, and welcome back to another Doctor Who review. And today is a double Doctor Who review, as we review two Sea Devils stories. Land Crawlers, Sea Devils. So without further ado, let's get into the review. Doctor and Miss Grant arrive on the scene after unit gets intel of missing ships. The Doctor walks into the room and begins to question the Master. I am usually referred to as the Master. And the Master politely responds, What may I do for you, Doctor? And the Doctor obviously asks, Have you any idea what's going on round here? And the Master is not a clue. Please, fill me in. It's so rare that I get this company at this time of day. It almost makes me miss your company. Master begins to play a game of cat and chase throughout this story, trying to elude the Doctor and Jo from realizing his true intentions. But eventually, after a while, they begin to suspect that he has a hand to play, especially after the disappearance of the submarines and creatures being spotted upon the beach shore. Nonetheless, without a shred of evidence to point to the Master being involved, the Doctor and Jo begin to investigate the lighthouse in hopes that they will find out what's really going on. Upon entering the lighthouse and going through the tower, the Doctor begins to get an uneasy sense, and all of a sudden he turns around to see a sea creature lurking behind him. Unsure what it is, he darts after it, but sadly the creature seems to elude him. But what he does find, alternatively, is a lighthouse worker who seems to be very traumatized. After a while, the Doctor and Jo manage to soothe the worker to sleep, just to de-stress him from the situation. But the worker begins to rave on, calling the monster a devil of the sea, a sea devil. And he calls out, pointing that this creature has taken his friend, and that he's worried for his friend's safety. He believes that his friend to be dead, and that the creature had done it. Back at the prison on the island, the Master is enjoying TV. What fascinating creatures. I almost loathe this planet if it wasn't so pathetic. But for small mercies, these are the true intelligent beings of this primitive planet. Mice. Who would have known? The warden of the prison then points out that the program that he's watching is a kids show and they are merely puppets. The Master feels very disappointed. What do I have the pleasure of your business, Mr. he says to the foreman of the prison. And then the pair depart to start phase 1 of the Master's plan. The Master begins to lure sea devils upon the beach, using a beacon that he has devised that seems to sink into their speech biology. In other words, calling them as if a harmless creature is calling for help when it's hurt. Unfortunately for the Doctor and Jo, they both get caught in a minefield. Don't worry, Jo. We'll be out in a jiffy, the Doctor would say, hoping to get Jo out of the minefield as soon as possible. But, to their avail, the sea devils begin to approach, heading towards their direction in hopes of attacking them. The Doctor takes this opportunity to navigate his way around the minefield using the sonic screwdriver, and then, when they're at a safe distance, he implodes each individual mine, saving the Doctor and Jo from the sea devils. He only does this out of fear and not out of malice, but he does attempt to try and learn and understand what these creatures are as the story progresses. Master makes one very foolish mistake in the middle of this story, When he goes to produce one of his disguises and infiltrate a local Navy base, he accidentally gets spotted out of uniform, and this causes the Doctor to manage to pick him out of a lineup of officers who have been caught and seen on the base. The Master then escapes back to the prison in hopes to be able to hide his actions, but it's too late. The Doctor's cotton on and the chase is on, as the Doctor tries to track him down and stop his evil, devious plan. The Doctor and the Master begin a jousting contest between the pair of them, fighting it out. Halfway through the altercation, the Doctor mockingly jokes on the table. Fighting such hungry work, wouldn't you agree? The pair laugh and contemplate over this situation. Inevitable, Doctor, but surely you know you can't win. The Master flukes the Doctor one last time and manages to escape the prison. In doing so, he begins to play out the final part of his plan. He goes to the Sea Devils in hopes of an alliance, in hopes that they will manage to make a coalition between them and destroy the humans once and for all. The Master seeks war over the land in hopes that this will give him his final victory over humanity. After managing to secure an alliance with the Sea Devils, the Master sends them upon the base. Eventually, though, this plan fails, and the Doctor tries to come to an agreement with the Sea Devils, but sadly that fails as well. And in an altercation between him and the Sea Devils, as their base begins to be attacked by the military, the Doctor finds himself escaping the clutches of the Sea Devils. But when he feels that the Master is in desperate dread to death, the Doctor tries to help him back to land, only for the Master to trick him and take on another disguise, ready to plot another plan for another time. Oh, what was my thoughts on this first Sea Devil story? Well, I thought it was rather masterful. But yeah, no, honestly, I thought it was pretty good of a story. It's a great introduction to the Sea Devils. The only thing I feel like is the pacing and some bits of the story could have been combined. It's a very long part of a serial. Definitely worth watching, but it feels like some bits where it becomes a cliffhanger. There's a great cliffhanger where the Doctor goes into a kind of vault, kind of locker that takes him down to the Sea Devil base. That's brilliant when they bring it back up and he's not in it. But there are other cliffhangers in this story where it could be the Doctor running down a corridor, an actor running down a corridor, and it just kind of slows down the pacing of this brilliant story. Delgado and Pertwee both bring this story together brilliantly. Their dynamic back and forth is magnificent. But sadly, for the reason as I just mentioned, I'm going to have to give this a 6 out of 10. It's a brilliant story, but I just feel like if those little cliffhangers have been fixed, not a problem. So, on to our next story, Legend of the Sea Devils. The Sea Devils are back and they have a pirate ship. There's missing treasure and a quest to find, as a keystone is unlocked and secrets unknown are unravelled. So what could the Sea Devils be after? And why, oh why, do they have a pirate ship? Well, let's get straight into the review. Dr. Dan and Yaz arrive in the 1800s in search of missing treasure, when all of a sudden they come across something that they can't fathom. All of a sudden, trying to throw rocks at the local water always seem to bounce back off of a geographic force field. The Doctor begins to think this is strange, especially as it begins to drag her earring. But this is not the only thing that becomes a haunting prospect, when all of a sudden the group begin to hear screaming from the local village, and as they go to investigate, they find a sea devil. The doctor calls out at the sea devil, Landcrawler. She jokes, we can both pick names, and the group begin to try and attack the sea devil. But little did they know that the sea devil is way more prepared than they are. As they try and catch it in a fish's net, the devil just breaks free, cutting the rope with a sword and freeing itself as a pirate ship comes into landing. Since when did sea devils have a pirate ship? Since me, the sea devil says, jumping aboard like Mario, the starboard of the ship, and flying off into the far distance. This story heavily focuses on the historical figure Madame Cheng, a real pirate queen from China in the 18th century. The story follows that Madame Cheng has unleashed the sea devil from a statue that was laying in the grounds of the Chinese village. She has unlocked it in hopes of finding treasure, but in doing so, she has released the demon and allowed it to return back to the sea, to wreak havoc and rearm itself with new and more stronger sea devils. The other part of this story also revolves around a little myth of a ex-sailor who makes a bargain with the sea devil for his crew. But little does he know that the sea devil doesn't keep its bargains. Lee and Dan attempt to get on Madame Cheng's ship. The Doctor and Yaz go to investigate and find out how long the sea devil's been around and why it was imprisoned in the statue in the first place. On their discovery, at first they assume that the great Jin Hun is trying to kick his crew off his ship. But later do they learn that Jin Hun isn't doing this by choice. The sea devil has promised him salvation if he does this, but it goes back on its word. Why would I have loyalty to a land crawler? The sea devil would say, as it soon imprisoned Ji-hun and took over his ship to hunt down a crystal element that will help turn the world upside down and flood it so that the sea devils can live once again upon the surface. Meanwhile, the Doctor and Lee get caught in the 1800s trying to overtake Madame Cheng's ship. She points out that she could cut their tongues out or chop their arms off and it wouldn't faze her a single bit. Eventually she decides to let them down, and when she does, the crew begin to talk to her about why she's doing any of this, and she points out that she has 2 sons and they have been captured by the Black Flag, and the only way for her to get them back is to pay a hefty ransom, and that the lost treasure of the Fleur de la Mar is the only solution. For a great reunion with Ji-hun and the Doctor, the group find themselves in a predicament where they have no choice but to have an epic fight between them and the Sea Devils. They cut down as many Sea Devils as possible, and eventually, after some unapproving things from the Doctor, they decide to cut down the final Sea Devil that took Ji-hun's crew. But they're still left with one problem. They must stop the Earth's pull being dragged across the shore and flipped upside down. Ji-hun decides to stay behind and sacrifice himself for the rest of the group. Yaz, the Doctor, Dan, Lee, and Madame Cheng retreat, leaving Ji-hun to his fate. In the final moments of this episode, Yaz and the Doctor begin to contemplate their relationship. They get very, very close, but the Doctor knows that her time is coming to an end. And so, when Yaz asks what her wish is, she says that the only wish is that she wishes this could go on forever. So, the legend of the Sea Devils, a great sacrifice story, very strong, very grounded. A little bit more grounded, I'd say, than the first Sea Devil story. And for that reason, I'm going to give Legend of the Sea Devils a solid 8 out of 10. couple honourable mentions. Storm of the Sea Devils, a Big Finish story, including Harry Sullivan and Naomi, and the Fourth Doctor as they investigate the mysterious goings-ons of a hotel conveniently placed on a swamp and a sea devil hiding down in the basement. Another mention is Hidden Depths, a sea devil story based under the core base of the ocean. And you know what? Surprisingly, the brilliance of this story is that the Ninth Doctor manages to do the one thing every single incarnation of the Doctor has never managed to do before for the Sea Devils, and that is make peace with the Sea Devils and the humans. The war begins to break between them, but eventually, with a very strong ending to this story, it is achieved. And the Doctor points out that it's better love and peace than war and blood under the sea. Thank you everyone for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I look forward to making some more Sea Devil based reviews in the future, especially with the announcement of the land and the war between the land and the sea, which I hope to be reviewing on here at some point. But until then, thank you for watching, see you in the next one, and stay beautiful.